Welcome to Marketing from X to Z,
the podcast specifically created for small business owners who want practical marketing advice without the hype.
We're your hosts. This is Mike Albuquerque representing Gen X.
And this is Liz Bachman, our resident Gen Zer.
We're here to share honest insights, real-world experiences,
and tangible strategies to help your small business thrive.
Hey, Mike, do you want to start a podcast?
Let's do it. Welcome back, everyone. Liz, what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about websites that convert and best things to do with your website.
All right, that's fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you doing it because this is something that you do a lot of. You build a lot of websites for people, including mine. So yeah, this is gonna be a good conversation.
Is this where I put my old man hat and talk about back in the day of Angel Fire and GeoCities?
I don't know what that means. So
that's great.
Oh my goodness! At least don't bring checkbooks into this.
I'll try.
All right, so let's just jump on in if that works for you.
It does. Let's do it.
All right, so I guess the first big thing is, and I see this all the time, is like, well, what do business owners typically do wrong? Let's start with the negative.
Yeah, why not? Right? Okay, so you see this very commonly, not just in websites, but in marketing overall, and that's businesses making it about them.
Okay.
Right. I'm sure you see that on the social side. You see brands doing it in, ad campaigns. You see it in all sorts of communication, but it's really blatant on a website because you have so much content there on the site. Right. Okay. And when it becomes all about the business or about the business owner, it's not about the customer. Right. And that's an issue.
Okay. So I think that one of the pieces of confusion there, though, is like, but this is where they're going to learn about them. So what do you mean by not making it all about them?
So yes, it is where you're going to learn about them, but it's also like you want to think through the lens of the consumer and what are the things that me as a potential customer who'd be buying a product or a service need to know about this product or service that would help me, either personally or professionally. What's in it for me as a customer, right? And that's what you should highlight more on the website as opposed to it being about what a great company you are. I mean, there's a spot for it, right? For you to brag on credentials and
the About Us page, basically.
We'll get into the About Us page. We'll get into the About page because yes, and also no on the About page there. But there is a spot for, talking about credentials and talking about the accolades and how proud you are of your business. But primarily, you want to connect with the customer. Right. The website is the one spot where you get to fully control that narrative. There's no competition there on that platform. Right. You have brought someone to your website. This is your space. It's like bringing them into your home. Then now take the time to connect with them, to tell your story and to understand why it is that they came to your home.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So when it comes to a website, like, How big of a deal is it? Can it make or break a small business?
So yes, I think there's a couple of levels of like how helpful a website can be. Right. Part of it is for some businesses, it's just a matter of making them seem like a real business.
Okay.
Right. People before they engage with the business, they look it up. Mm-hmm. And different generations have different patterns, right? Where some of the younger generation might be looking more on social, right? I had a friend who would say that she was always like, if she ever heard of a business that she wanted to check out, she would just look up their Instagram. And if they didn't have an Instagram, she assumed they weren't open. With some of the a little bit older generations, you see more of the website, right? That's people go, they search a business on Google, they find where are they located, if they are somewhere, and if not, what's their digital presence, right? So they can learn more about the business.
Okay. No, that does make sense. I mean, I don't think I've bought something from anybody without looking them up somewhere, at least. Like, so that does make sense.
The numbers for that are staggering. It's like in the mid 90s
really?
Of people who look up a business before they engage with them.
Okay.
Right, before they buy from them, which makes sense. Because yes, you're gonna buy something. If it's a digital product, well, you got to go to a website. I mean, you're looking them up. But even if it's an in-person, like your local painter or plumber or accountant or whatnot, like a local service provider who you don't necessarily need to look them up, you typically still do, right? Because you want to see what people are saying about them. You want to see how they're different.
Yeah, that's completely true. Actually, I recently, or not super recently, like in the last year or so, my parents had a lot of things that needed to be done around the house, like some handyman type stuff, really, like leaning into full flooring, that sort of space.
Yeah.
And they went on to Angie's List to try to hire people, and so they went and searched through all of that, and then I wouldn't let them hire them because they didn't have a website for me to look at and be able to track them down, because I couldn't find like a digital footprint that proved that they were who they said that they were.
Yeah.
And so that made me not trust them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and my parents are a little bit older than the both of us, but
yeah, it makes a lot of sense because you want, like, part of what you get on the website is, what their process is, right? How is that company or that business or service provider going to engage with you, right? And also testimonials, definitely helpful on the website and off the website. There's different levels of how credible they are depending on where they're coming from. I always like for businesses to pull testimonials from a platform like Google or Facebook or Yelp, somewhere where you can't just type it in yourself, because clients will trust that more if they're seeing that it's not something that you can, edit yourself. But regardless, just having testimonials just is a great value for people to understand what it is, how that business has helped other people in the past. And even like there's this, like some people even like looking at the bad reviews to see what is it that made it bad. Yeah. Right? Is it the fact that like this business accidentally double invoiced, or was the service not done correctly? I saw one the other day for a business that gets a ton of reviews, right? And they're always 5-star reviews, and they're probably getting like hundreds a year. And that's great. Yeah, they're super on top of that stuff, and they got one review that was like a 1-star. And I read through it. I don't read the 5-star ones, but I read the 1-star, and it was, you could tell that it was like an offhanded comment that the service provider made that just really turned that person off. Okay. But it was also not something that I think would deter me from hiring the business, because it seemed like it was like I could see how it would have been something that someone says without thinking that was accidentally hurtful, but not purposefully. And so it's one of those things that's like it's a misunderstanding more than a poor quality service provided. We went on a tangent there on reviews, but... We did. Reviews are also very important, and I'm sure that is a different episode where we can go a little bit further into that. But no, I mean, having reviews on your website's a big deal. You put a Google review widget on my website so that people could see the reviews as they have as they come through, and it's auto-populated onto or relatively auto-populated. Relatively, yeah, something like that. Okay, so what about you? You may or may not have a strong feeling about this, but what about, there are some websites that like look really nice and some websites that are a little bit more basic. What makes or breaks a website? Like, is it the design? Is it just how it looks really nice, or is there more to it than that? So I think sometimes we hear content versus visuals or design almost as this like, and you got to choose one, right? And my background is in branding, it's in graphic design, so you probably know where I come from. But having that said, I will say that content is the most important thing on a website, right? Yeah. Having content that connects with the audience, having copy that is written to convert, having a clear structure, that is first and foremost the main thing on the site. But I do not think that it is an either or. I don't think that you have to give up good content to have a website that visually also connects with the audience, because the visual side of the website is going to be what attracts people to it, which makes them stay there a little bit longer, right? Which can create a connection by itself, by the images they use, by the colors you use, the style of design, the typography, and all that. All of that matters. All of that adds to it. So I don't think that you necessarily have to give up good design to be able to have a website that converts. I think, in fact, it enhances that, your ability to convert. I think where there is a little bit of a balance is with design and like website speed, and especially if you have a business where you run ads, right? Your landing page for Google Ads will convert better if it is hitting all of the Google Lightspeed metrics. So you're
I don't know what that means, and I don't think our audience does either. So
good point. So Google has certain metrics that they use to decide how well built a web page is.
Okay.
Right. And so that includes things like how fast it loads, how fast the top part of the site loads.
Okay.
And then if things move around when your website loads. And sometimes you see on a website where you load it and there's like almost like a quick flash as the CSS is loading on the site. I'm getting technical again, but
the CSS is the pretty part, right?
That's a coding part. That's styles thing. It's cascading style sheets. Lord, I can't believe I just said that. But it's sometimes that is applied after the website loads, and so that's why sometimes you'll see like a button look like a blue button, and then for like a split second, and then it loads looking rounded corners and flat or with an effect or whatever. But Google looks at all that, right? And it also looks at how well the website works on mobile, for instance. That's one of the metrics, right? If you have a website, and there's certain platforms that are notorious for having good desktop speeds on the, a laptop computer, but having poor mobile speeds, and that does affect how Google sees it.
Okay.
So that's where there's a little bit of a balance between design and website speed, because if the design is making your site slow down, then it is going to have an effect on things like your Google Ads campaign. So when you're building a landing page, there's a movement now to not include images on the top banner, on the top part of the website, to speed it up, because that will help you get a higher score on Google's tool. And that is I don't know how deep of a dive that is that we want to go on it, but if a business is not running Google ad campaigns, and if it's not a business that's investing a ton in SEO, then less of a concern. Focus on conversion.
You went deep enough into that I have a bunch of questions, but I don't know if I want to derail us that far.
We're changing the topic of this episode. We're now talking about... That's okay. We got time.
And this is why different marketers have different areas of expertise. Because website is most definitely not mine, which is why I don't build websites. I send them to Mike. Okay. Wait. So say you were doing a Google Ads campaign and you developed a landing page for those Google Ads. Are you on the side of not having photos on the top of it, or like where do you stand on that?
So I do still like having photos, because media like photos and videos, they help conversion rate a lot. So you might get fewer people on that page, but you'll convert a higher number of them.
Okay.
Right. And so you got to decide what the balance is, which might have to do with how much you're spending on ads and how many people are clicking on those ads and coming to those pages. I still use photos. So we just did one for a few months back for a client that we have in common here in Cobb County. And for our landing pages initially they had a video header, because it was highlighting, we want to show like in-person events and things that were happening. And so I do these quick, I'd say no more than 20-second videos, right, on the homepage. That's about the size they can get through without getting into too much trouble. And our Google Ads person was like, nope, you got to ditch that. Let's get rid of the videos, because it's weighing down the page. It's right at the top. So let's shift that to an image or to a color background. And so we did. We shifted it to a solid image, and that yielded some results. And we loaded some optimized smaller images as well towards the bottom of the fold. It's not an exact science, which stinks, because you do get, when you're measuring those things on Google, they do have a lot of like details, but it won't tell you like change this to that. You got to be able to read into it, test it, see what results you get.
So could you have put the video at the bottom, or just like, because it's a landing page itself, just no to that?
It would still affect it. If it was a video that is a video hosted on the website and that is auto playing, which is the one that this was, then it does affect the page speed a lot more versus a video. Let's say that you had a YouTube video where you're explaining either the event or you're explaining what you're doing, and you're loading it directly off of YouTube or Vimeo, which means that it's not on the site. Then that's okay, because it's not preloading anything other than the player.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. All right. Pivoting back to the general website conversation we were trying to have, instead of me fixating on that. So my brain just glitched. I'm trying to read and then it didn't work right. So it's fine. Everything's fine. So
let me ask you this question. How about this?
Gosh.
Can I go?
Okay, sure.
Okay. What would you believe is the most common reason why small business websites fail to convert visitors into customers?
Well, a lot of times when we're looking at people's online presence, because we've done this a fair number of times together, they're not actually telling us what they do or how we benefit from them. Like they think they are, but they're not. A lot of the times when we do things for our own business, we have a lot of context and information in our brains that we don't necessarily put out into our marketing materials that people who aren't us don't have.
The curse of knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. I think it is so common. It sounds crazy.
Yeah.
You go to a website and you can read the whole thing, which nobody does. No. Right? Nobody goes to a website and reads the whole. It's not meant for that. But we'll go to the website. We'll sit there. We'll read it all and just go, what do you do again?
Yeah, we've had 3 different people we've reviewed that was how I felt about that. Yes. I was like, I can you tell me what your service is? Which is also why, like, when I do marketing, like strategies and things like that, I make people I make them give me their website and I make them tell me what they do. Yeah. Because you never know what you're going to get.
Exactly. It is so common. I mean, I see that a ton, right? And obviously more so with like, maybe a startup or a business that has a different approach to things, where they understand what the difference is, but they are not able to efficiently explain that to a customer through, their website content. But it is so common, right? So you don't necessarily see that as much with like, your painters or handymen or whatnot, but anyone that tries to go a little bit different, like, hey, I had this idea for this business and it uses this or that and that. And it's like, well, what?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So just being clear, I think, is a big part of the messaging that people miss out.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense when you're creating something new, because it's easier also for your consumer to fill in the blank about a painter or a floorer or something like. Yeah. Even how you say that word. That's fine. It's whatever. Because we generally know what that is.
Exactly.
Okay. So then what are some things that you can do with your website, that will make it actually more effective? Like, other than clearly stating what you do so people understand it, what else is there? So by focusing on the customer, not focusing on the business, it'll put you in a different mindset to develop the content. So you want to focus on what are the pain points that you're solving, right? What are the issues that me as a customer am having that your company or your product can solve? And that's a big part of it, honestly, because as a customer, if I know that you understand the issues I'm dealing with, then I'm going to trust you more to solve them. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Speaking the customer's language instead of yours. What I know that you've built quite a few websites and you've made some pretty you've done some some smaller projects like mine, and you've done some much bigger projects. What are some examples of something that you rebuilding a website or applying some of this has really had a positive impact for the business?
So there was a business that they had a site that were a local sports league, or not a local, sorry, a national sports league. And they came into the sport, decades ago when it was something new and wasn't getting done. So they were pioneers in it. And 20 years later, the website looks like it was built 20 years ago. And so they had now lost so much room in the industry, because when potential players would come to their site, they weren't seeing something that reflected what they were looking for. They were seeing something that looked dated, that maybe like their parents would have liked. And so there was a huge visual disconnect with the audience. There was a functional side to it as well. That's something that we had to solve. What was that journey for the customer? But just, the visual was the big part of it. Right, just you're speaking to young people. You got to you got to have colors that appeal to them. You have to explain things in a way that they'll read and understand. Right, so breaking it into digestible bits, which means use your bullets. Use short sentences. Be clear. Don't get overly complicated. And when they revamped that site, and it took us a little while working through it because it was a bigger site. But that really helped them to regain their foothold in, some of the key different markets for them.
Okay, that's awesome. So basically having, you reworked the design elements to make it more appealing to the customer, and then you also helped with the customer journey and experience through that site in order to make them more likely to convert. Is that
exactly? And there was a long shopping experience. It wasn't a add to cart and you're done. Okay. There were different things, different questions that we're asking there. And so there was a user experience side of things, which is like, how do we want to map out these different elements of the journey and ask these different questions so that it can be a pleasant experience, and so that people also aren't dropping out on step 4 out of 7.
Gotcha. Right. Okay, that's very cool. Are there any other ones you'd like to talk about?
That was a good. Things with e-commerce or anything that you go online and you can make that experience just more streamlined. There's always huge benefits there.
Gotcha.
With service-based businesses, you do get a benefit from just either buzz or simplifying the message if it's not clear. But like the visual side of it, when there is something that people can buy on the site, like the improvement is just, you see the results right away. It pays for itself. Okay. Very quickly.
Very cool. All right. That does make sense to me. So we're going back and forth with a lot of conceptual things right now, but for the business owners listening, for the small business owners listening, what are some quick and effective things that they could do today or tomorrow to improve their websites?
So one, which I think addresses a little bit what we talked about in terms of like the communication, the messaging, because that might be just a little bit abstract to people. Yeah. Right. Add some FAQs. Okay. Think of what are the questions that your customers are answering you. Go to the internet, look at, a site like Answer the Public or whatnot to see what questions there are around your service or your product, and add them as FAQs, because that when you go to an FAQ model, it changes a little bit how our brain works in terms of how to put the messaging out there, right? It might seem a little bit awkward to try to answer some questions on our website content. But if you're doing an FAQ section, that's exactly what it's for. The question is, how long will this take? The answer is it'll take X to Y weeks. So just think of some of the more common questions and answer them there. I think if you can add, I think at least 5 questions is probably a good spot to do so. There are great ways that FAQs can help with SEO as well. But I would say as a starting point, as something simple and practical, don't even worry about them. Just have the questions, answer them, and then you can roll in the SEO part later. And if you have different products or different services, then create FAQs that are to those specific products or services and add them on their individual pages.
Okay, no, that makes sense. All right, is there anything else that they would do right off the bat?
You can do if you want to do a Google Lightspeed page test on your site, it's free.
Just kick the table really quick.
Yeah, don't break it. If you can do, you can go to. We'll put the link in the notes below, somewhere, wherever this gets posted. We'll put a link.
We'll figure it out. That'll be fine.
Because it's a free test, and you can run the test to see how individual pages are loading. That could give you some insight. Because what I see a lot is people will post a photo on their website. Like, let's say that, Liz, you got a new headshot and you wanted to update it on your site, and you just go and you load your headshot photo on the site. Well, if you don't optimize it, that's going to make your page speed just drop significantly, right? Because you're probably getting a photo from a photographer that is a few megabytes big.
Probably. This is why I just send an email to Mike that says, "Hey, Mike, I need this on."
So if you run the page speed test, you can identify some of those issues, and then you can use a tool like Swoosh, which is free for you to basically shrink a file size. You drag it up there, and it'll spit out something that's a lot more reasonable.
Okay, very cool. Let's see. Well, we kind of touched on a few of these questions in our process. Is there anything about good design and good conversion strategies that you didn't touch on that we want to keep moving into?
Let's keep moving. I think we talked about the balance that I think it is, right? I think good design helps with conversion. I'll share this about design. I had someone. I heard someone talking about this the other day. They were in the web. They had just moved into the website space where they were building sites, and that were focused on conversion, right? And they had this model, this template that they were using to create like a funnel type site. And they were talking about how their websites look bad, but they convert, and they were positioning that as it's hey, we stripped all of the good design to convert at a higher rate. I'm like, well, industry metrics say that good design will help. So maybe the previous website was built with design and focus and not with conversion. But that doesn't mean that you should purposely abdicate design, because he said the feedback, he was like, the business owner keeps calling me, just complaining about how terrible the website looks.
That's not good. What?
And he's like, well, it's terrible, but it converts. And it was more tied to tied to a chat bot that was on the site too. That was a different business model, but so
okay. That's definitely an interesting. I've definitely, with like landing pages, when it comes to design, I've seen a couple of different styles tried out. I've had a client who was running landing pages who and they were very ClickFunnels style. Yeah. Like the Russell Brunson sort of style. And then I've had I think I often have clients who want to put too much on a landing page. Yeah. I think that messes with the conversion, but they look pretty. So it's like, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting kind of balance between the two.
And by the way, when I say good design, that doesn't necessarily mean high end or bespoke. It's about matching the vibe with the customer. Right. Think of, if you go to the store, sometimes you look at the name brand and the store brand, right? And you could, even though they're similar, the store brand typically tries to emulate that. You might have a similar reaction to them, right? And you might go to a store that maybe doesn't have the name brand, but you look at just the store brand and you think, well, this must be the affordable option. Right. So there's a strategy behind that. There's some store brands that are designed to look more high end so that they can charge more, even though they're same thing. So good design doesn't mean it needs to look expensive or at least needs to look fancy. Good design can make something look expensive. It can also make it look like it's a good value.
The thing that popped in my head, and this is not websites at all, because this is going to be the episode of derails, I think. So the thing that pops in the head, like lavender Epsom salt, like to like put in a bath?
Sure.
Okay, so I
do that all the time.
All right. Well, you try walking as many dogs as I am and get as sore as I do, and then come back to me. All right. So there's like it's like Mr. Teal's or something like that. It's like the standard brand, and Target has a store brand version of it. And when you're saying that, because Target plays both angles of that design game. They have some stuff that they do to make it look much nicer, and then they also have stuff that falls into that cheaper, like not cheaper, but more affordable looking option. And that just made me think of those because their bath salt relaxation stuff is designed to look more affordable. They have it's a similar color to what the other one is, not the exact color, but a similar color. But the font and the white spacing makes it look more like it's a bargain. Yeah. So that's what just popped into my head with that. So I can definitely see how that could apply to websites too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it certainly does. It certainly plays a role.
I just learn a little bit more about Liz than you guys probably wanted to, but
there's companies that want to be seen as, the high-end version out there in the market, and there's some that want to be seen as just a great value. And so that's where good design comes in.
So when it comes to good websites that resonate with your target audience, with your ideal customer, how would you recommend checking and like getting out of your own mental echo chamber if that's working or not? So
if you have the opportunity, obviously, to, talk with humans, you have either friends or clients or close clients, people who, or maybe who had never experienced your product, or maybe who have but haven't been on your website. Yes, asking people is a great way to get some feedback on what you're doing. You can do the digital version of that as well, which is I had a friend do that just the other day where he was running some ad campaigns and they weren't converting, and so he took a screenshot of the site, of the landing page that he was directing people to, and put on ChatGPT and described his customer and described his ad campaign and got some feedback there. And so that is a digital version of getting some action items to do there, right? Okay. Because if it's like the main thing with if you're just trying to take a step back, right, and get some feedback on your site or seeing ways to improve it, it's about getting out of your head, making sure you're not using lingo that is too, in the trenches, which I think we've done a little bit. I've done a little bit of that today here.
It's okay. I feel like we parsed it. It was fine.
You brought it back in, but you definitely don't want to do that on your website, right? So it's like I like that from the show The Office, when Michael Scott is asking Oscar, like he's trying to understand a little bit about it. They had some extra money left that year, and he's like, "Explain to me that like a 10-year-old." And Oscar breaks it down and explains it. And he's like, "Okay, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old." Right?
Yeah, I feel that.
it might sound dumb, but that's sometimes how we want to present things to people, just in the simplest, rawest form.
Yeah, it's similar to like when you copyright, you probably want to write for a 6th or an 8th grade level, like bringing things down to where you're not so up in your own professional space, where that, again, filling in the gaps of the context that you have that your audience doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. And even depending on the service that you're offering, it might be even below that, right?
Yeah, no, that is fair. Okay, so we've talked about content and design and conversion and all of that space, but we haven't talked specifically about the different pages on a website. So what would you say is the one that people like is the most underutilized, or where you wish people would spend a little bit more time than they do?
The About page.
Oh, look, we're circling back.
Foreshadowing. That's what happened earlier in the episode, right? The About page is statistically the second most visited page on any website.
Oh.
And it is an important page because people aren't going there to find out if you like long walks on the beach, if you have dogs or family or whatnot. There's a place for some of that stuff as well, but it's about alignment.
Okay.
Right? They're looking for alignment between who they are and what they're looking for and what the business provides. So your about page should include some information about the business and about the team and how you can help people.
Okay, very cool. So no talking about lattes and puppies on the about page?
I think you can do that if you really, really want to. And if there's a point to it, right? You got to look at it from the lens of what you're going to be saying there. Is it more likely to attract new customers or to push people away? Right?
Okay.
So we want to be careful with what you share there. That's not your spot to get on the soapbox and talk about, how hard you work and how other people don't or whatnot. It is the spot that you go to share a little bit about the values of your company, about work ethic, about, reviews. That's a great spot to have, like maybe a longer review or testimonial from a client.
Oh, okay.
If there's any accreditations, if you are, you've been voted best in whatever, right? Or if you have certain certifications, that's a spot to put them. So it's you get to do some humble brags there, but it is about alignment. So just remember that people who are going there, they're trying to learn more about the business. They're saying, okay, I understand, what they're offering. I understand their services. Now I want to make sure that they kind of align with what I'm looking for.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I need to rethink some of my people's about pages.
Yeah, it's again, statistically the second most visited page out there.
That's so
The first one is the homepage, obviously.
Really?
And then you go to the about, which is interesting that it's higher than services.
It is interesting that it's higher than services. That definitely is. Mine, when I look at my Google Analytics, and I'm sure we'll talk about tools in just a second, but when I look at my Google Analytics, mine goes homepage, blog, contact. I don't even know that about's on there. So maybe I'm not doing something right with
you also have some good SEO on your pages for especially blog articles and things that you've written in the past. So you get a lot of people who are coming.
Yeah, I get a lot of people that come directly from there instead of going from my homepage to the blog. So I guess the blogging is a whole other conversation we should probably have at some point. It's something I like quite a lot because I have a lot to say. But what types of tools would you like? I know I just mentioned that I use like Google Search Console, especially the Beta Insights one, because it's just super streamlined and easy for me. But what would you recommend that business owners use to see if their website is doing what they want it to do?
So first off, you should have analytics on your site. Right,
yeah.
Google Analytics it's a must. So if you don't, please install that. It'll give you some insights. I don't actually love the insights that come from Google Analytics. I think there's a place for them, but I feel like they're very basic. But Google Search Console, which you mentioned, I think that's a great one.
Yeah, I love that one
because it'll give you an idea of what people are searching for, how many times you showed up on different searches out there for certain words. It's also there's a lot going on with Google and indexing sites right now, which is indexing is when Google basically adds a page on your website to a search engine. And Google Search Console is the place that you go to tell Google, hey, I want this page to show up in search, right? And there's a technical part out there that I don't want to get too into the weeds. But
no, that's a different level of conversation, probably.
But it's Google Search Console is a place that you get to go to do that. And it also has a lot of great insights. And so I like keeping an eye on it because I have content on my site that I'm adding blogs, for instance. And even though I have my sitemap connected to Google Search Console, which is how they pick pages to post online automatically, it doesn't mean that they do it right away. And there's no rhyme or reason for it. It's great.
Oh, great. Now I have homework.
I'll show you how to do it. It's simple. You go in, you click a couple buttons, and you hope for the best. You hope that the gods at Google will approve your page to be posted. Because it's crazy. I mean, I've had blogs that weren't posted for like a year. I mean, I had some, not a year, but I had some that I did last year in November that I went to check on it. I was like, oh, crud, this thing didn't get didn't didn't get posted yet.
It's just fascinating. It's crazy how much stuff is because like why I look at Google Search Console doesn't have anything to do with indexing sites. I am like, you're telling me this and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, now I have things to do. Yeah. But when, unless you've done it for me, you've probably done a lot of that.
I've done some of the connection, but there was like, it's a routine thing.
Yeah. But why I like Google, I know how that word works, Search Console, like the beta insights, is because it actually helps me drive content marketing ideas for like what needs to be going into your email newsletter and what goes on social and stuff like that. So it's because it's all a system. It all kind of works together. So your website is a great source of data to like inform the rest of that as well. Yeah. Which is not about converting websites, but it's just like getting the most bang for your buck when you're doing things. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right. So we kind of touched on this one already, but if they could, because we're at the end and I want people to remember action items, what is one immediate change that people should make for their websites, or at least something they should think about right now?
All right. This one is simple. I want you to think through, how do you want your customers to connect with you? Do you want them to call you? Do you want them to email you? Do you want them to buy? What is the primary action you want them to take? And then make that be your primary call to action, meaning the button that they see when they go to your website and to your pages. It should lead to that. That is one simple way that you can just boost some of your numbers very quickly.
Okay, that makes sense. Reduce the friction to get people to do what you want them to do.
Yep.
What about a question to ask ourselves to make sure that our websites stay conversion friendly?
Listen to what people are saying, and listen to what they're saying in person, listen to what they're saying online, because you'll get some insights out of that. If I came to meet with you, Liz, and I said, I didn't realize that you did social media strategy. Right? Then you might be thinking like, oh, Mike's a dummy. He should realize that. We've known each other forever. I've talked about it, right? But if I still came and said that, then that means that the messaging is lacking.
Yeah.
And likely your website plays a part in that, and it should be clearer there as well.
Okay. Now that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. I think one thing that people also often forget to do with their website, like if I were to have to make sure that it's conversion friendly, is making sure that English, Elizabeth, is making sure that you remember your customer journey. Because I think a lot of the times what ends up happening is, because I know that I'm going through this right now, so this is more of a thing I'm learning in the moment, is the way that my business works has changed. And I have not given my website person all of the information necessary in order to, or if you're doing it yourself, I hadn't updated it to match where my business is at now.
Yeah.
So I think that that's something, because business changes, business evolves. And so your website has to as well. And so keeping it conversion friendly means that you also have to keep it up to date with the types of conversions you're seeking. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I feel like I feel like we do it and then we're like, and it's done and it's up and I'm excited. And because that's definitely what I did.
I tell people your website should be a living, breathing thing, which just means that basically it's not a checkbox, you're done, right? It's something that you should keep re-auditing and revisiting and readjusting it based on, like you said, where your business is going.
That totally makes sense. So, okay, we've been talking for like 40 minutes. So if you're still here, thank you. But what is one thing that we didn't touch on today that would help with websites? Just not going all the way into it, but just like as a topic. What is one thing we didn't touch?
Well, we didn't really touch on SEO.
Okay.
I mean, we touched on very briefly. And, we talked a little bit about speed as well. Speed matters, SEO matters as well. But if you're not there yet, then focus first on conversion.
Okay. Well, Mike, thank you so much for your insights today. I love the ones where I get to interview him because basically I get a free consulting session, which is awesome. And I am really excited for us to jump into our next episode.
Awesome. Let's do it. All right. See you guys next time.